You know what gets me? The moment when a man's true character rises to the surface. Back in September 2001, a young fella was selling vacuum cleaners door to door in Indiana, living in his parents' basement. Nothing special about that story, yet. But then, the world changed. Those towers fell, and while everyone was talking about what they might do, this young man, Adam Driver, he did something that would forge his soul in fire. He joined the United States Marine Corps. Now hold on just a minute. This ain't your typical Hollywood fairy tale, no sir. What I'm about to tell you runs deeper than any red carpet or bright lights. See, the ancient Stoics had a word for what this young man was about to learn. Autarkia. The art of standing on your own 2 feet when the whole world's spinning. Let me tell you something I've learned watching folks chase happiness their whole lives. Most of them are looking in all the wrong places. But this story, well, it might just show you where to look. Now folks, I reckon you might be thinking, here comes another one of those self-help lectures. But let me stop you right there. What we do here at Rise Stoically, well, it's about as different from that as a cactus is from a rose bush. We deal in hard-earned wisdom, the kind that's been tested by time and fire for over 2,000 years. You see, if you're tired of that hollow feeling that comes from depending on others for your happiness, if you're ready to build something inside yourself that no storm can shake, then maybe you ought to stick around, because this story, well, it might just be the compass you've been looking for. Let me lay it out plain and simple for you. In the next little while, we're going to walk through 6 principles that shaped Driver's journey from that basement in Indiana to the heights of Hollywood. But remember this, we're not here to talk about fame or fortune. No, sir. We're here to understand something far more valuable, how a man learns to stand firm when life tries to knock him down. You know what's interesting about Driver? While most folks were chasing spotlights, he was building something different, something the Stoics understood centuries ago. And here's the thing, every step of his journey holds a lesson that could change the way you face your own battles tomorrow morning. Now let me tell you about something that separates the dreamers from the doers. There's this moment, you see, when life hands you a pen and says, go ahead, write your own story. For Adam Driver, that moment came in the aftermath of September 11th. Here's what's interesting about that time. Picture a young man in Mishawaka, Indiana, selling door-to-door, living in his parents' basement. Not exactly the beginning of an epic tale, is it? But here's where it gets good. When those towers fell, everyone had something to say about joining up. You know how it goes, lots of talk, not much action. But Driver, well, he did something different. Here's what he said years later, and pay attention to this part. September 11th happened, and all my friends were like, let's join the military. And I was the only one who actually did. Let that sink in for a moment. You see, folks, while others were talking about what they might do someday, Driver was down at the recruitment office waiting for his 18th birthday. That's the thing about real independence. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do when nobody's watching. The Marines taught this young man something that money can't buy, something the Stoics understood centuries ago. True freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. No, sir. It's about having the strength to do what's necessary, even when every fiber of your being wants to quit. Now here's something that might surprise you. Before the Marines, Driver admits he was lost, lacking direction. But after enlisting, he learned that independence isn't about standing alone. It's about choosing your battles and fighting them with everything you've got. Let me share something with you that might sound strange at first. When Driver joined the Marines, he stepped into a world where every minute of his day was planned out for him. Now, you might be thinking, how's that independence? Well, stick with me here because this is where it gets interesting. In the Corps, this young man discovered what he called instant citizenship. Every morning at 0400, that's 4 a.m. for you civilians, he'd rise. As a mortar man in the 11 Weapons Company, he carried an 80-pound mortar through terrain that would make a mountain goat think twice. But here's the thing most folks miss. This wasn't about following orders blindly, no sir. This was about building something inside himself that no one could ever take away. Driver put it better than I could when he said, "The discipline that you learn in the military translates into everything. There's no dipshittery." Now there's a word worth remembering. You know what's fascinating? When he got to Juilliard, that's about as far from the Marines as you can get. He kept right on with that military discipline. His classmates thought he was crazy, showing up hours before dawn, running 6 miles before class. But Driver understood something profound. True independence isn't about doing whatever you feel like. It's about building habits that set you free. You know what they say about life's sucker punches? They tend to come when you least expect them. For Driver, that moment arrived just when everything seemed lined up perfect. Picture this. He's trained as a mortarman, his unit's preparing for Iraq, and then a mountain biking accident shatters his sternum and his military career in one fell swoop. Now here's where most stories would take a dark turn. But let me tell you something about true independence. It's not about never getting knocked down. It's about what you do in that moment when you're lying there, looking up at the sky, wondering if your dreams just went up in smoke. Driver said something that stuck with me. When you get out of the Marine Corps, you feel like you can do anything. Now most folks might hear that and think, sure, easy to say when you're successful. But here's the thing. He said this when he was just another discharged veteran, starting over from scratch. Let me paint you a picture of what happened next. Remember that dream of acting he had? The one that seemed about as practical as a screen door on a submarine? Well, Driver took that Marine Corps mindset and pointed it straight at Juilliard, one of the toughest acting schools in the world. Less than 1% get in, folks. Those aren't odds, those are obstacles. But here's where it gets good. Driver didn't just apply once, he got rejected and came back again. Each no wasn't a stop sign, it was intelligence gathering for the next attempt. That's something the Stoics understood. Every setback is a setup for a comeback, if you've got the wisdom to see it. Now listen to this part carefully. During his recovery, when most folks would be feeling sorry for themselves, Driver was building something remarkable. That organization he runs now, Arts in the Armed Forces, that wasn't born despite his injury, it was born because of it. He took his worst moment and turned it into a bridge between two worlds. You see, that's what real independence looks like. Not just bouncing back, but building something new from the pieces of your broken plans. Let me tell you about something rare in Hollywood. Something as rare as rain in August. In a town where image is everything, where every smile and handshake is calculated, there's this one fella who just won't play the game. Here's something that'll make you think. Driver refuses to watch himself on screen. Now hold on a minute. This isn't about being modest or quirky. During an NPR interview, he walked right out when they started playing clips from his movie. That's not a publicity stunt, folks. That's a man who knows exactly where he stands. You know what's even more interesting? In an age where folks measure their worth in followers and likes, Driver's about as likely to be found on social media as a penguin in the Sahara. No Twitter, no Instagram, nothing. When they asked him why, he said something worth pondering. I've observed that there's a negative element to it that I don't want to be part of. Let me tell you something about true independence. It's not just about saying no to things that don't serve you. It's about having the strength to maintain those boundaries when the whole world's trying to wear them down. Driver kept his son's birth secret for 2 years. Try doing that in Hollywood. That's not being mysterious, that's building what the Stoics called an inner citadel. Let me tell you something about true mastery that most folks miss. It's not about reaching the mountaintop. It's about keeping on climbing even when you're already higher than most would dream of going. And that's where this story gets really interesting. You see, most actors in Hollywood, once they've made it, they ease off the gas pedal a bit. But Driver, well, he's cut from different cloth. For that Scorsese film, Silence, he shed 51 pounds. Now, hold on a minute. This wasn't about looking good for the cameras. This was about something deeper. Here's what Driver said that caught my attention. I think it's about working on yourself constantly. The ancient Stoics had a fancy term for this, epimelia hiautou, the care of the self. But let me break that down into plain English for you. When Driver took on the role of a bus driver in Patterson, you know what he did? He didn't just learn his lines, he went and got himself a commercial driver's license. For real. That's like bringing a cannon to a knife fight, isn't it? But here's the thing about independence. It's built on competence, on knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. Now listen to this part carefully. In the Marines, every day was training day. Didn't matter if you were the best shot in your unit or the worst, you trained. Driver took that mentality and applied it to everything. He creates these notebooks of observations for every role, studying human behavior like a scientist studies nature. But here's what makes this truly remarkable. While other actors get comfortable in their niche, Driver keeps pushing into uncomfortable territory. Broadway plays, independent films, performing for troops in combat zones. Each one a deliberate step out of that comfort zone we all like to nest in. You see, folks, that's what real independence looks like. Not just mastering one thing, but constantly expanding your horizons, constantly challenging yourself to grow. There's something that happens when a person decides to plant their feet firmly in their own truth and let the winds of opinion blow right past them. In Hollywood, a town built on smoke and mirrors, that's about as rare as snow in July. Let me tell you something about Adam Driver that most people miss. When he talks about fame, he doesn't sugarcoat it. Told The Guardian straight up, "I don't understand the value of celebrity." Now, that's not something you're supposed to say in Hollywood, but that's exactly the point. You know what's interesting? When other actors talk about their process, they make it sound like some mystical journey. But Driver? He cuts right through that fog. Acting isn't rocket science. It's about being honest in an imaginary circumstance. That's the kind of truth that might not win you many friends in certain circles, but it'll sure help you sleep at night. Here's something worth pondering. Even in Star Wars, one of the biggest franchises in history, Driver insisted on minimal makeup for Kylo Ren, wanted those emotional struggles to show right there on his face. That's not about vanity. That's about staying true to your craft when millions of dollars are telling you to do otherwise. And let me tell you about something really special. That organization he runs, Arts in the Armed Forces, they don't do elaborate shows or famous plays. They bring raw, honest theater to military bases. No fanfare, no press releases, just the pure power of storytelling. That's what authenticity looks like when it's not trying to impress anyone. You see, folks, that's the ultimate freedom. The freedom to be exactly who you are without apology or explanation. Not because you're trying to make a statement, but because anything else would be a lie to yourself. Now, folks, as we come to the end of this journey through Adam Driver's path, let me share something important with you. What we've witnessed here isn't just a story about a Marine who became an actor. No, sir. It's a masterclass in what it means to find that rare kind of happiness that no one can take away from you. Think about the journey we've traced. From that basement in Indiana to the heights of Hollywood, every step was built on principles older than Rome itself. The Marines gave Driver his foundation, but it was his choices, day after day, year after year, that built something remarkable. Through discipline, he found his freedom. Through setbacks, he found his direction. Through authenticity, he found his strength. You see, that's what true independence looks like, not standing alone, but building an inner fortress so strong that no external storm can shake it. Now here's what I want you to consider. Where in your own life are you looking for permission when you could be building conviction? What battles are you avoiding that could be forging your character? Remember, this isn't about becoming a Marine or an actor. It's about finding your own path to standing tall when life tries to knock you down. Here at Rise Stoically, we believe something powerful. These ancient principles, when understood and lived, don't just change lives, they transform them. We've seen it in Driver's journey, from that Indiana basement to the bright lights of Hollywood, never once losing sight of who he is. Before you go, I want you to do something. Take a moment and reflect on which part of this story struck you deepest. Was it how he handled setbacks, how he maintained his truth under pressure, or maybe it was that relentless drive to keep growing? Share your thoughts below. Your insight might be exactly what another traveler on this path needs to hear. And if this way of looking at life speaks to you, if you're ready to explore more of these timeless truths through the lens of modern lives, join us here at Rise Stoically. Next week, we'll uncover another story of independence and resilience that might just change how you see your own journey. Remember this, folks. True happiness isn't something you find out there in the world. It's something you build, choice by choice, day by day. through unwavering commitment to your own path. Question isn't whether you can do it. The question is, are you ready to begin? This is Rise Stoically, and I'll see you on down the trail.